Hello everyone, my name is Kush and welcome back to my hobby blog. Today I'm very excited to be talking with you today because I just finished volume 13 of Berserk last night. So I am ready now to give my volumes 10 to 14 review because I've been going 3 volumes at a time, but I only had 1 volume left until the final, to finish off the Golden Age arc. So I knew I had to read it. So this is going to be a little bit longer. It might not be any longer because the first 2 volumes I will be going pretty quickly through. And this will be full spoilers up to volume 13, to the most recent volume I've read, because I want to talk about it, and I will be doing a top 10 favorite moment spoiler review about the Golden Age arc. And I will also be doing a non-spoiler, review of the Golden Age arc. I haven't really thought about that one as much. I talked about the Black Swordsman arc, and that was basically just like 2 volumes, so I didn't do a dedicated review for that, for those 2 chapter arcs, but I think for this one I'm going to need to do a non-spoiler one because I need to get more people to read Berserk. This manga is just fucking incredible. I love it. It is very dark, it is very violent, it is very bloody, very gutsy, nasty. It has some of the coolest art I've ever seen, and I'm mostly talking about the creatures that appeared in this section. I'm talking about the apostles, the God Hand, everything with the God Hand. Oh my God! Without further ado, I'm gonna go volume by volume, talking about volumes 10 through 13. 4 volumes. So, volume 10. We start with Guts and Casca are together, and they're talking about what they're going to do after they rescue Griffith. They don't really know what to do with their lives after that, but they're very committed to rescuing him. So they both arrive, or they are both swept away by a bunch of logs in the river, and then they are rescued by Erica and her father, or Godo, yes, who, as a big Dark Souls fan, I immediately recognized him. He's the blacksmith from Dark Souls. Well, I guess the blacksmith from Berserk. Godo is in Dark Souls. Interchangeable. I love that. But we team up with like a small band within the Band of the Hawk, where it's just like Casca, Guts, Ricket, Ricket is not there. I think Judo is there, though. It's a really small contingent, but they sneak into Wyndham Castle, and they go all the way down into the dungeons where Griffith is, and they find him, and he is not doing well at all. He has been routinely tortured about every hour of the day, seems like, for the last year or so, since we last saw him. And we do get this pretty interesting moment where Griffith is on the ground of his cell, and he sees these little creatures that are like popping one of the loose bricks, or I guess stones from the wall, and they're like, Griffith, Griffith, and like calling his name, and I was like, okay, that's a little weird. And they talk about, what do they talk about exactly? I wrote it down, but yeah, I didn't write down what they said, but it was something weird. Probably had to do with the eclipse. But they all get down there after Griffith has been tortured by this really nasty torturer guy. He's this like grotesque little thing that the king has had. And they finally rescue Griffith, and Guts has this awesome moment where he rams the sword through the door into the jailer, and then like kicks the door open and immediately kills him. or at least not immediately kills him, but he dies very soon after. And from then on, we get this bloodshed where Guts and everybody has to fight their way out. And I love this part of the anime as well, and it is just as it's actually more bloody in the manga than it was in the anime, pretty obviously. But I really enjoyed it in the manga. This was just so fun. I love that moment when Guts is just, breaks the door open and he is just mowing people down, trying to protect his leader, Griffith. And Charlotte is there. She's kind of like the secret spy who is helping them to make their way through the castle to where Griffith was. So that's good. She has not been talking to her father since that horrible chapter. But she is helping now, so that's very good. She's helping Griffith any way she can. But while this is happening, we get a really cool section with Rickett where he's looking over like a lake. And we are formally introduced to the character Puck, the elf. And I love Puck. I really enjoyed her character early in the series when we before we flash back to the Golden Age. I really enjoyed having her along, and I don't really remember her from the TV show at all. So it was just fun to get like an elf character. I really enjoy them. I remember reading or watching Sword Art Online, and I actually didn't mind the elf storyline. I guess it's not season 2, but it's basically Arc 2 of season 1, and I enjoyed it. But in Berserk, I don't really know anything about elves. I don't know what this is leading to, so when Puck showed up and she's flying around and we have that amazing artwork of all the lines, kind of like slow shutter speed photography where you can see the lines like when someone's doing the fire stick or whatever on like 4th of July. If you turn the shutter speed really low, you get that really cool kind of trail of light. I really love those panels where she's flying around. That was really cool. So I'm really excited to see what Puck has in store, or how she contributes to the storyline. I hope it's not like Pan's Labyrinth where her wings are plucked. That would suck. And her name is Puck, so I hope Puck is not plucked. That would be awful. But yeah, so after that happens, we get a scene where the Knight of Skulls shows up, or the Skull Knight, I will continue calling him. And he stops a huge monster from killing Rickett and Puck. And then he's like, just goes away. And just, he saved Rickett, so that's good. And then we get some history about the Tower of Rebirth. And we get some lore about Supreme King Jesurik, who I recognize as Radon from Elden Ring, so that was fun. But during this whole scene where they're trying to escape, there's this like super assassins that show up called the Bakiwaka, and I thought they were really cool, but I felt like they were a little bit of a distraction. I felt like that was a little too much, like it was a little too many things getting introduced. And they were defeated pretty easily once Judah was able to use the darkness and was using sort of like the sparks from the wall when the metal would hit the wall. And that was really cool, and I really like the designs of the Bakiwaka as well, but I don't know, like, I guess I was just impatient while I was reading it because I knew what was coming up. So I was just trying, like, to get to the eclipse. But, I enjoyed it for the most part. I would give this volume like a 9 out of 10. It's great. It's not my favorite volume. But volume 11 is where things start to pick up for me. So in the final sort of section of Volume 10, the king talks with this character named Wild. And he's this, like, creature guy who ends up being an apostle. And he is so nasty. He is super horny, very perverted. He's constantly having sex. He's very motivated by his dick. And, like, that's his entire character. He's just nasty. And so we get his background in Volume 11. And we learn about the Black Dog Knights that he leads. And they are, like, really nasty. And they're led by, well, not led by, but there's a duel between Barbo and Wild. Barbo is another guy who, maybe it's Borbo, I don't know. But this was one of the contenders to lead the Black Dog Knights. And so this guy, Wild, is like, I'll kill him, king. Like, I'm just gonna kill him and I will become the leader of this. Like, let me, kill him. Like, and so the king is like, yeah, go duel. So they duel. And then, obviously, Wild wins. And so he becomes the leader. And so we get this really cool, sort of volume all about the Black Dogs. It's mostly about them. It's a lot of chasing after Guts and the crew. The Black Dogs are trying to get to them, and Guts and everyone else are laying traps. They're trying to keep them away, but they catch up eventually, and Guts has to fight them all, and there's a lot that goes on. Nosferatu Zod shows up, and that's amazing. A lot of this section, I would say, it is my favorite in terms of the artwork. Volume 11 is when the artwork, like, is starting to, like, rise to, like, masterpiece levels. I loved the artwork in Volume 11. And obviously I love the artwork before this volume, but I think Volume 11 is when Miura just really, like, goes just so detailed. And, like, to the point where, like, I feel like I'm watching a movie with, like, how well everything flows. He has, like, coverage everywhere, if I'm using filmmaking terms. Like, he is, like, it's just amazing. I love it. I did not particularly enjoy all of the sexual assault that happened in this volume. That was a little much, but it's Berserk, so it's kind of just goes with the territory, I feel like, at this point. I can't really complain about it ad nauseum, but I don't like that stuff, so I'll just continue on. Charlotte sees a really big flying creature flying over the castle during this section where Wild and Guts are fighting, and it ends up being Nosferatu Zod. I knew he was coming back. I was very happy to see him again. And he goes up to Griffith, Nosferatu Zod does, and he's like, hey, do you still have the Behelit? That would be really good to have right now. You need to call in our protectors. You need to call in the God Hand. And I was like, oh no. I was like, we're getting there. We're almost there. And Griffith says, like, oh, sorry, I don't have it. And Nosferatu Zod is like, what? Like, what do you mean? And he gets really pissed off. And he goes up and flies away, and then goes to Wild and kills Wild for Guts. And he tells Guts, he's like, hey, by the way, the eclipse is coming any day now. Be careful. Keep your head up. Keep your sword with you. And he doesn't say anything else. And Guts is like, huh? Like, what does that mean, the eclipse? So, yeah, not good news for any of these characters. But, yeah. So after Nosferatu Zod flies away, we see the true body, or the true form, of Wild. And it's a really old guy, and his body is sucked into the little spiral vortex that the God Hand control, that we saw very early in the series. So that was really awesome. I really enjoyed Volume 11. the nastiest that the series has ever gone, the most disgusting, the most gory. But at the end of the day, like, I love fantasy, and this is sort of like the level of like challenging that I want from a series. I've read Mahabharata, which was really challenging in other ways. I've read Malazan, which is really challenging intellectually, philosophically, and also details wise. I've read Book of the New Sun. That's very difficult. And this series is just really difficult, not in terms of the writing, but in terms of the subject matter and just how well all of these artists can draw these panels so well. Because if it wasn't for that, I don't think this series would be as grotesque as it has the reputation of being, because it's the artwork that is just 10 out of 10. It is incredible. I know Miura has died, so like the chapters after he died, the story may not be as good, but I'm really happy to know that his team is still producing very good artwork, is what my friend was saying. So, going into volume 12, this is when things just shit hits the fan. And I don't even know, like, if that covers it. But we start the volume with the band of the Hawk have reunited with Griffith and Guts and Casca, and everyone's back together. And they are trying to run away from the king and trying to not be killed by him and his soldiers, because he's still really pissed off about Griffith, and he didn't want him to be surrendered. And so they have a trade-off with Charlotte and Griffith. And they go away, but, the king is like, hey, there's a bounty on their head, anyone can kill them, go for it, whatever. And so they just have to run away. They're just having to run away forever for the rest of their lives, seemingly. And so they're traveling, and Griffith is having a hell of a time. He tries to lie with Casca, and he's trying to, finally kind of like have a closer relationship with her, or just like be physically close to her, because he is not, he's been tortured the last year, and mentally he is just at his worst. And she rejects him. And so he, that tips him over the edge, and he runs out of the wagon. And as he's running out, he finds the Behillet again, and he ends up impaling himself on a tree and bleeding on the Behillet. And that is how you summon the God Hand, is you bleed using your own blood onto your Behillet, and then it tears open the boundaries between the mortal world and the realm of the God Hand, or of the dead. And all hell breaks loose. We get so much. I'm just going to go through my notes now, because there's so many things that happened. But so Griffith bleeds on the Behillet, as I mentioned, and the eclipse begins, and everybody can see it all over the world. And we get all of the band getting transported into the realm of the God Hand, and we get basically armies upon armies of monsters, basically chanting that the Great Nocturnal Festival is here, and that basically means a feast is going to occur, and it only happens every 216 years. So there's a lot of people who have died from these creatures all this time, who are now very hungry because they only feed during this great feast. And so all of them are pretty enraged, and, they're demons, they're fucked up, and, just the worst, beings in the universe. And so they begin to feed on the Band of the Hawk. Everyone we know are getting killed, are getting eaten. Casca I will cover soon, because there's a lot I want to talk about with her. But one by one, the God Hand are emerging and witnessing this big moment when Griffith opens this realm. And they're basically like these giant, Cthulhu, Lovecraftian Cenobites from Hellraiser beings. And I love that. I love the God Hand. I love just that concept. It's something I love in fantasy. I love the Forsaken in Wheel of Time. They're nowhere near as interesting as the God Hand, but like I love like groups of evil beings. Like it's just fun. I love to see how they work together and what they can come up with. It's just fascinating. And with Berserk, I anticipate a lot of nastiness to happen from these creatures, but it's basically 4 of the God Hand are here, and they are talking about ushering in the 5th one, and that's going to be Griffith. So Griffith is going to become part of the God Hand, and it all comes back to his dream of wanting to be in the castle that he was running towards as a child, and his entire life has led to this moment. And this entire time, the God Hand has been behind this, always kind of watching over him, and it ends up that they have always kind of been there in human history, slowly morphing history to suit the exact timeline and conditions that they needed to bring in the eclipse during Griffith's time, because we don't really know exactly. Sorry, my computer just started like going really loudly. That was random, but like we don't know where the God Hand come from, but we get a tease that they have been, they were once humans, and that it was the Behelit that transformed them into who they are now. And that is so fascinating, and I really, really, really hope that we get to see, like, the past of the God Hand. I want to know, like, all of the history, but at the same time, I'm completely okay if we do not get, like, human God Hand. Like, that would kind of suck. Maybe just dialogue about it I would be fine with. Like, more details about it. But, they summon this giant, like, flesh altar in order to bring Griffith up closer to them, because they're just super powerful, and there's this giant, like, hand coming up, and, like, Guts and Griffith are together. Each finger is one of them. And it, like, goes up, and all of the God Hand are, like, floating. And it's just, like, so cool. I love the artwork in this section. It is fucking awesome. I think everybody needs to read this series. So they go up, like, all the way to his palm, and the God Hand cause it to close, the fingers to close, blocking Guts out, because they need Griffith to make the decision to sacrifice everybody. And if Guts is there, Guts can probably prevent that. So they separate them, and we get the biggest WTF moment, I guess, which is the God Hand talking with Griffith and convincing him to make the decision to sacrifice everybody. And he takes it. And all hell just breaks loose. This is when I say, I don't think I can really talk about what happens throughout this section, because I think it needs to be seen to be believed, because the artwork is just so incredible. The way that all of the Band of the Hawk are one by one chased down and eaten. And then each of them then becomes an apostle. and then starts chasing off another member of the Band of the Hawk. And it just goes that way for like a volume and a half straight, basically, until the kind of towards the end of volume 13. And there's a lot of death in this section. After that moment when Griffith chooses to sacrifice everybody, the Band of the Hawk are branded, meaning they get this, I don't have it within reach, but they get the classic Berserk logo of the brand on all of them. And it's kind of burned into them, it's branded onto them. And, not to do a pun, but Guts receives one as well. And immediately he kind of sees Griffith transforming into his own, I guess, God Hand form is what I would call it. And that is volume 12. And oh my god, like, volume 12 is just like 9.5, like 10 out of 10, in my opinion. I think I'll give it 9.5 out of 10 because I think volume 13 is straight up like 10 out of 10. I don't know if I can really summarize what happens in too much of detail, but we start off with Rickett seeing Zod and Skull Knight fighting. And they're actually bickering before they fight. They're bickering about responsibilities during the Invocation of Doom and talking about how the God Hand wants them to have, like, one of them was supposed to be holding the gate open, one of them was supposed to do something else. And they're both like, yeah, well, you both suck, you know, or the other sucks. And they just, like, belittle each other, and then they're like, ah, fuck it, like, I'm just gonna attack you now. And Skull Knight is really cool. He's one of my favorite of the new creatures that are related with the apostles. I don't know if he's an apostle. I assume he is. But maybe he's like a nice apostle, whatever that means. But Griffith is continuing to transform while everyone fights for survival. Judo and Corcus die very quickly. In very nasty and disgusting ways. It's really nasty. Again, it's got to be seen to be believed. Guts is just completely killing motherfuckers left and right. All these apostles, he goes into like rage mode. And all the demons are like, oh my god, like this guy is so powerful. He has such a will to live. Like, this guy's the real shit. Like, I want to kill him. So they just keep going at him, and Guts is just, you know, mowing them down. And it's just crazy, just the artwork in this section. But while that's happening, Griffith is transforming, and we see from his point of view, we go really deep, like, deep into his subconscious. And we see basically what it calls itself basically like God. And it says that he is looking at its core. Because Griffith is like, what is this? And he's like, you are looking at my core. And it's like really cool. And it's like, what the fuck is this? And it talks about how hell is basically but the surface of many layers of the subconscious. Like, hell is just but the, like, tip of the layers of the subconscious. Like, I don't know how else to word it, but, like, this creature subconscious thing, it has basically shaped the world's history in order to usher in Griffith, in order for him to achieve his grand ambition. And Gaston, we go over to Guts, and Gaston is rising from a blood puddle. And Guts talks with him for a little bit until his face explodes. Gaston's face explodes. And he turns into an apostle and fights Guts. Pippin arrives during this, and he's also an apostle now. Casca arrives, and she is being held naked by tons of demons, and Guts just goes berserk. Not to make light of this situation, but I kind of have to for my own benefit, because this is, without a doubt, the hardest section I've ever fucking read in any series ever. I'm very good about compartmentalization, but I think this section with Casca is very hard for me to read and to also look at, because it's written out for me in very deep detail. To the point where I don't know if I'll read that section of the volume again, but we shall see. But the artwork is very intense in this section. All the demons and apostles stop the moment that Griffith finishes his transformation, and he is transformed into Femto. The Wings of Darkness is what one of the God Hand call him. And I said, so cool. I love his design. He looks really cool. He specifically asked the god, Koi, I'll call it, to give him wings. And he's like, yeah, fuck it, I'll give you wings. Like, why don't you have wings? And I love that. That is so fun. And we finally get the name of all of the God Hand, all 5 of them. We get Femto, Void, who is the big brain one, Slan, who is the woman, Ubik, who is the one with glasses, I believe, who flies around, and then we have Conrad, who is the one with, like, he's like a octopus, like, flying guy. He's a big guy. I don't know how to describe them. I haven't seen them enough individually to be able to differentiate Conrad and Ubik. But then Femto flies over to Guts, and he grabs Casca and molests her and then rapes her for many, many pages. And I don't like it. Guts is restrained by demons while this happens, and no one is getting eaten anymore. Everyone's just kind of forced to watch this. And it's really hard. I'm not gonna linger too much, but Femto eventually throw Casca to the side, and Skull Knight flies in. Hell yeah. He flies in on his flying horse, and he tries to slash at Void, but a portal appears like above his head, and then another portal appears behind Skull's head, or Skull Knight's head, and Skull Knight, or Void's like slash tries to hit Skull Knight, but Skull Knight anticipates it, so he dodges it. That is really cool. I love that moment. But he fails. He doesn't slash Void, so he flies away into the eclipse and disappears. But ends up that Skull Knight grabbed Casca and Guts from the God Hand's realm and flies him out of it. And so I'm very happy to say that Casca survives, but oh my god, the state that she is in now is, you might as well just take her out of her misery. The shit that she has gone through in the series, I don't think she has deserved in any way whatsoever. I understand that the series has to go so deep into the depravity that it has to go into, because that's sort of like the masterpiece thinking on Miura's end, is making the reader go to such lengths. And so I don't think it should be removed, but I am not happy whatsoever with what Miura did to Casca. Because the entire series, Casca, excuse me, try not to hiccup here, but Casca has been trying to follow Griffith for many, many years. And he has kept her at arm's length the entire time, has not accepted her love or anything. Not that he has to. He is more than valid and just telling her, like, back off, I don't want you. But, like, he rescued her, and so she sort of imprints on him. And he just kept just sort of baits her around until this moment. And I feel so fucking bad for her. And I just don't know what else to say about it, because I think everyone who has read the series understands what I'm talking about. And there's really no reason to linger on it, because this is something that I guess had to happen. So I'm not going to give this a 10 out of 10. I said earlier how I wanted to give Volume 12 9.5 out of 10, or I was going to give it 10 out of 10, but Volume 13 is better than Volume 12, and I believe that wholeheartedly, but I think this moment specifically keeps it from a 10 out of 10. This was perfect aside from that. This reached levels that I've never seen manga go. Obviously, I'm not much of a manga reader. I've read Uzumaki, and like that's it. Naruto when I was young, Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z and Dragon Ball Super on manga, but like Berserk's my first series, so maybe I'm feeling it deeper than a lot of manga readers, but I'm gonna have to give this volume like a 9.8, 9.7. I'm leaning towards 9.8 because I want to give it like as close to perfect as possible, because I've heard that like Golden Age is like the masterpiece arc of the series. And I know nothing about after this point, so I'm very excited to continue on, but this was such a hard moment. And the moments after the eclipse where Guts and Casca are together in the cave with Erika, and Erika is talking about how, like, Casca doesn't even know her own name, Casca doesn't talk anymore, she's just continually washing herself. And, like, that is such just a hard thing to watch, watching that. Like, I think that hurt me to see a lot more than, I basically just scrolled really quickly on my, because I read it on my computer. I don't have the physical editions or the volumes, but I was going really quickly during those rape scenes, so I didn't, like, look in detail on those, but, so I wasn't, like, affected as much as I could have been affected, but I think just that really vulnerable moment where she's just washing herself, like, without being able to talk or anything, like, and Erika talks about how she's just been washing herself over and over again, like, for the last, like, 3 days, I think Erika says, and it's just really hard to talk about. And so that's to say that I don't know. I don't like to read things like this, but I understand why Miura put it in, because this is like the lengths that he needed to go to in the series for the theme work, because I think the themes that he's working with in the series and the nature of evil and what drives humans to be evil, and I think what he did with Griffith is just 10 out of 10 in terms of themes. And the way that Casca factors into that theme, I think Casca needs to have I think Casca's story needs to become better from here on out. I don't want her to go through any more shit. So, like, I don't want her to die, but I feel like her killing herself or Guts killing her in a kind of messy kill, I think is the best thing for her, because what do you even do? How do you heal from that? And in the world that Berserk is in now, like, after the eclipse, like, it's never going to get better. The apocalypse has come. The God Hand are free. Femto is now the leader of them. We don't know what he's going to do now that he has all this power. Like, I don't know where the series is going, and I'm very excited for it, but I need Casca to just get killed immediately. Let her have a very just nice last few days of her life where she forgets all of this. I just want a really happy ending for her, but I don't think we're gonna get that. And I'm dreading reading anything related to Casca from here on out. I don't really want to read anything related to Casca again because it just hurts too much. I don't know how else to say that, but Skull Knight shows up at least before the end of this chapter or the end of the volume as well, and he gives Guts a new sword. Guts only has one arm, by the way, or one hand, so he can't have his giant, awesome bastard sword. But he gets this awesome magical sword from Skull Knight, and he's like, hey, by the way, you're branded now. Get used to the spirits. You can kill them, but they're going to keep coming for the rest of your life until you get the brand off, and we don't know how to get the brand off. Or at least readers don't know, and Skull Knight's going to not tell us how. But so, yeah, that's where we are, and Skull Knight puts Guts on his horse and flies into the distance, and that's the end of the Golden Age arc. So I'm going to put out a top 10 favorite moments, and I will also put out like a non-spoiler review kind of about the Golden Age arc. That will probably be really short. I may just do a YouTube short for that. I don't know. Maybe I just won't do it. Maybe I'll just do like I don't know. I don't know how I'll do that, but thank you all so much for watching if you're still here, and please have a great rest of the day.